Hey future nurses, and welcome back to the channel. So if you are dreaming of a career in nursing, you probably have sent your UCAS application already and your interview invitations are looming. Do not stress it. In today's video, I am going to arm you with everything you need to be able to confidently walk in that interview room and secure your spot in a nursing degree in the UK. So let's dive in. And you might want to stay to the end of the video to know the mistake that I did that nearly cost me my desired university, and common mistakes students do that rip them off their place in their desired university, and how to spot this and not to do them. Right, so first of all, let's understand why nursing interview matters. Nursing interviews, universities do interview because they want to know your commitment. They want to know whether you understand the role that you have applied to. They also want to know whether you embody the values essential for nursing. And this is not all the time about your grades. This is the time for you to shine beyond your personal statement. So you go in there, you show them that you are really passionate about this and you genuinely want to make a difference in people's lives. And so when you are going in, be aware that you understand the role. What have you applied for? Have you applied for an adult nursing? Have you applied to do a mental health nursing? Have you applied to do learning disability nursing or a dual qualification? Read about it, know the things that you need to do. Are you a good communicator? Are you a good listener? Most of the time it's about you also understanding people, and so are you a good listener? So these are the things that you will have to read about and also understand. The second point that I'm going to talk about is the 6 C's. So the 6 C's is your nursing compass. It is your nursing compass. You must know these. They are what I've put here. They are care, competence, communication, courage, compassion, and commitment. So because these are the backbone of modern UK nursing, you will have to be able to say them in your answers. So what you're going to do is, whatever question that you are asked in the interview, make sure that you subtly or you sometimes directly link this to one or more of your 6 C's. So you've been asked a question like, how are you going to deal with a patient who is challenging? You are talking about care and commitment, because if you do not have commitment or compassion, you wouldn't be able to care for a patient who is difficult. So you should have compassion to be able to deal with these patients. So whatever answer you give in that question, make sure you are linking that to one of these 6 C's. For example, you could be asked how you work well in a team. This will be communication and commitment. That could be part as well, or communication and courage. Let's say you are working in a team and you want to advocate for a patient. So you've been asked a question, how are you going to advocate for a patient who needs equipment for home? How are you going to do this? It is going to be you communicating effectively with your physiotherapist, your occupational therapist, and the discharge team. So these are the things that you would do. So you being courageous and committed about you liaising with other people in the MDT will show that indeed you are committed to help this person, and indeed you work well in a team. Because why? You have liaised with another person in the multidisciplinary team, and that you have been able to solicit for a bed or a hospital equipment for your patient. You are not going to be asked thorough, as in how you're going to do all of these things for a patient, because they know that it is too early for you. You are about to start the nursing and you wouldn't know a lot of this, but they will throw the question to you as how you will work well in a team. It doesn't matter. It could be that you work in a supermarket, you work in a coffee shop, you work as a volunteer, you work in care. How do you work well in a team? So you will have to link some of this. So the next point will be your value-based recruitment, your VBR. Here you don't just tell, you show. So this is very huge in NHS application or NHS role for nurses. You don't just tell the interviewer that I am passionate about this job or I am a caring person. They want you to show them how you will show care to somebody. So you could use it in a way that you could say something like, while give a scenario. That is the best way to say it. Give it in a scenario way. So you could say, they will ask you, how do you show compassion? Why have you applied to this job? And you want to say, okay, or why have you applied to study nursing? And you want to say, oh, I am a passionate person, or I am a caring person. Do not state it that way. They want you to say things like, while I was working as a volunteer in, let's say, Marie Curie, I had a patient who was anxious about their diagnosis, or a patient relative who was anxious about how their family member was doing. I listened to them and I explained the process to them, that the patient is here to be cared for and they are going to have the best care possible that they need, and hopefully they will get better and go home. So after saying that, you saw that the patient or the family member was bright, their eyes light up, then you knew that, okay, this is how you show care. You have actually spoken to them in a way that you have calmed their heart. So that is something that you could say. This is not a generalized answer. It could be that you work in you volunteer in, let's say, shop or a supermarket or whatever. Let's say I will use myself as an example. When I got a question like that, I did mention about volunteering in British Heart Foundation. So while I was a volunteer, I did work on the till. I did also work on the shop floor, and I did also work upstairs where we sort clothes out. And I did mention that most of the time when I'm on the shop floor, I see that people who come and shop sometimes find it difficult to look for the things that they need. So the best scenario that one time I used was a lady who came to shop for a program for her friend, and the dress code for the program was, I think they had a specific dress code. She had looked and looked, she couldn't find any what the desired thing that she wanted, and she didn't have enough time left. They were approaching the party. So when she came to the shop, she explained this to me, and we looked around. We looked and we had a proper look. I even went upstairs. I couldn't find anything that suited the or matched the color. And then she was quite anxious. So I said to her, you know what? Why don't you wear this, and maybe we'll pair something with it. We'll find something to pair with. She was so happy and she accepted the idea. So I didn't even do anything. She literally went about looked for, I think it was a scarf or something she looked for, and this complemented the dress that she bought. And that is a way of you being committed. That is a way of you incorporating commitment or your 6Cs into your interview. And this is how you have shown that indeed you are passionate about the thing that you do or the job that you're doing. So don't tell them that I am passionate because I want to do it. Be genuine about these things and tell them in a scenario form. So it is all about you providing evidence through real life experiences, not just saying anything. Now, the other thing that I will talk about is your NMC code. This is your professional Bible. Every nurse in the UK operates under the NMC code. This is the Nursing and Midwifery Council Code of Conduct. As a student, you are not expected to know everything in this code of conduct or know every single line, but you have to bear it in mind. You have to know why it exists, really. So the purpose and the principle of the NMC code is patient safety, professionalism, and also ensuring that you always act in the best interest of your patient. So you could be asked a question like, what would you do if your colleague discuss about a patient outside your work hours? This is breach of confidentiality, isn't it? So what are you going to do as a nurse or as a student nurse? Because you will go on placement and you will find that these things happen, not because nurses want to do this or healthcare professionals want to do this, but not every healthcare professional do understand this. If you are a nurse, you have the understanding that there is no way you need to pass information onto people who do not need to know this information. But what about a healthcare assistant? They might not know the principle and the purpose of the NMC code of conduct, and it is your responsibility as a student nurse to maybe advise or prompt this healthcare worker or this person who does not know. So in that instance, what can you do? And also bear in mind, some people even know, but they just do it. So it is worth you as a student applying to this degree, understand the tenets of the NMC code, the principles, and what to know and what to do and what not to do. So it's not about you going to read the whole NMC code of conduct. No one expects you to read the whole thing, but understand the principles and the purpose of the NMC code, because you'll be asked a question relating to that. Next point that you would also want to look at is research. I would say research on NHS and also the university. First of all, let's take the NHS. What you want to know about is the current issues in the NHS. Things like staffing shortages, the aging populations that we've got, and also mental health crisis. Now, you might also want to know the move towards integrated healthcare. You mentioning about the NHS long-term plan shows that you are engaged. Google the NHS long-term plan. Why do NHS want to treat people recently at home? Why is it best to treat people at home rather than in hospital? You can talk about the crisis on nurses, people getting mental health issues because of the pressure on nurses and the staffing level that we have in the UK. So do that. That shows that you are really engaged and you are into what you want to go and learn. Also about the university, research about the university facilities, the modules that the university is offering, how their modules are spread across the years. Is it where the placements are allocated, or where you're going to be going for your placement? Sometimes some universities put on their website their clinical simulation rooms, and this could be maybe what they have in the simulation rooms that got you to apply. Maybe they have the dummies that talk to you, you know, the actual dummies that talk to you. That could be what got you to apply to that university. Or is it that they do a lot of online lectures? Is it the e-learning? What got you drawn to them? In my time, during my time when I was applying, what I did mention was, at that time, the university that I applied to, that was my first option, they had 97% rate of students getting a job in the first 1 to 6 months of qualifying. So that got me to apply, because I knew that when I finish, I would definitely get a job. And how to master the STAR format of answering the interview questions. So the STAR method is your situation, your task, your action, and your results. So what you're going to do in the situation part, you would want to set the scene. So give a scenario. So you could say things like, last year while I was volunteering in, let's say, Marie Curie, I looked after a patient. So this is your situation, or the scene that you've set, and then the task will be what you did. So I looked after a patient who was distressed. They needed me to help them with personal cares. And what action did you do? So because the patient was distressed, you act calmly, you listened to them, you gave them time to come around, and then you went on to do perform their personal cares. And what was the result? So the results will be a positive thing. So after you had spoken to the patient, you've given them time to come around and calm down, you noticed that the patient was settled, they were calm, they allowed you to perform the personal care for them, which was the best results that you needed. So this is how to answer the STAR, master the STAR method of answering questions. So let's say if you are asked how you deal with patient who have challenging behavior, or if you are going to look after a patient, or you want to perform care for a patient who is not allowing you to do that, how are you going to deal with this? This is an example way of you framing your answer. This shows that you are an active listener, and also you will have to learn something from the results. When you did that, when you gave the patient the chance to calm down, you spoke to them in a kind manner, and you did listen to them, what did you actually learn from that? Things that you can say is that after doing that, I learned that it is good to be patient, and I also learned that active listening helps you to relate to your patient or gain a rapport with your patient, and this is what you can do. Now let's talk about some common nursing interview questions that you might find and how to go about them. This is not a general question that you will get, but maybe will give you some ideas. So the first question will be the all-time favorite question, why do you want to become a nurse? So here, how you're going to answer this question is you have to be genuine. Link this with your personal experience, the things that you have done. They do not want you to say, I am passionate about nursing. Instead, say something about your life experience, the things that you have done, and the experience, your desire to really help people and also problem solve, you having the skill of problem solving and you making a difference in someone else's life. These are the things that they want to see. So in this aspect, I cannot give you a fixed answer, but link them to your life experience, your work experience, and just write down, prepare some answers for these questions. And the next question that I will ask, they might ask is, what are the qualities of a good nurse? So here, as we've mentioned earlier, you can link this to the 6 C's. So your communication, your care, your competency, your commitment, your compassion, and being courageous. You can link this up with that. So you can give an example as maybe a nurse who actively advocate for their patient, and give some scenarios. It could be that when you were volunteering in let's say a care home, or when you were a carer, you did advocate for a patient to maybe get their food on time or get seen by the speech and language therapist. This is something that is a quality of a good nurse, a nurse who listens, a nurse who communicates well. These are the things that you can say. But as I said, just link everything with your 6 C's and try and write some answers down, because this will help you, and go through them, practice them, because every individual's experience is different. So all you need to do is to write stuff down and get perfect answers for these. They might also ask you, they usually ask this question quite a lot, how do you cope under pressure? So in this scenario, you can use your STAR method, and you can talk about things like prioritization. You can talk about seeking support and not relying on your own understanding or your own knowledge, but you can use resilience as well. So try and use a STAR method. Find a scenario that you have gone through, which could be something that was challenging, or maybe it put you under time pressure, but you managed to deal with this by prioritizing the needs of your customers, your patients, and how you were able to seek for support, and also staying calm during that process. So these are something that you can also talk about. And they can also ask you about your strength and your weakness. At this point, you have to be very, very, very genuine. This is crucial. For your strength, you can talk about being a good communicator or a good listener, or you can talk about you being punctual. When I say punctual, it could be that you cannot get to work on time, but what do? You ring the hospital, or you ring the team and let them know that, okay, I'm going to be late. This means you are reliable. This also means that you are committed to the job that you want to do. So this could be your strength, but for your weakness, be very, very careful. You have to be honest with this part, but you have to frame it positively. Do not talk about anything that is going to harm your patient. So talk about things that you have done that is not harmful to your patient, or not going to cost your patient to stress or struggle. or put them in a situation that are not going to benefit from. And also talk about what you are doing to improve that. It could be that maybe how you communicate. Maybe for me, I cannot look into people's eyes when they are talking to me. When I look into people's eyes directly, I feel like I'm staring at them and it don't make them feel comfortable. So okay, that is my weakness and I'm working towards it. I have to psych my mind that okay, when I'm speaking to people, I should look at them but not stare, things like that. Or you can make a scenario. The next thing that you would want to do is to prepare some questions for the interviewers. So try and write something down. It doesn't have to be something thorough. You just can write about how are the placements designed. You can ask about things like that, or you can ask about what is the best thing for student nurses here in this university. So that could be things like what we've talked about, like when I said my university had about 97% rate of student having getting a job in first 1 to 6 months of qualifying. This is something that you can ask the interviewers, and you have got this. Just prepare and practice on your answers and your questions and the things that we have mentioned. Dress appropriately, decently, and just when you are going, make sure you've got all your documents in hand. You are not going to bring them documentation that is on your phone. That is not acceptable. So if you need to, they've asked you to bring your passport and stuff like that, take them. You can get a clear bag, them plastic pouch things, and you put everything in that so you can take it along with you. And you can also come along with your letter, the interview letter. You can come along with it so they know that you are prepared and ready for this. So I wish you all the best in your interview, and I hope these help you to secure a place. I will do a part 2 because I think there are something that I need to add to this. So I'm gonna do a part 2. So watch out for the part 2. Just keep an eye out because I've got one coming down. So I'll see you in the next one. Have a lovely time. Bye.